Didn't quite finish my video yesterday, so I'm going to finish it off here. I feel I have to explain some things. I'm stuck between a hard place and a rock, I think, in as much as in America, I think most of my subscribers are Americans, and of course, you being basically a Christian country, I would say, the majority are Christians, then and you're quite used to things of the spirit and dreams and all that sort of stuff. Every man and his dog has a dream over there, so it's all yada yada. Whereas in New Zealand, I am, an exception. Now people are starting to move in the spirit, but we are not a Christian country. We're very much a secular country, and the spiritual, it's not as anywhere near the amount of spiritual movement and people as there are in the States. So so over here I would imagine that I don't have many in New Zealand subs, and most of them would think, what's that crazy woman, we don't care about her dreams, what is she, crazy? But so we've got these different poles, and and also, over the last couple of days, I've been talking about a man called Winston, and whereas in New Zealand, everyone knows Winston, but I know in America you'll be saying, who is this Winston? Why should we care? So I just want to put a little bit of background about Winston, and the way that I thought about it was, really, essentially, Winston is like New Zealanders Donald Trump. He's a guy who's always been on the outside. And also another thing about New Zealand that's different to the United States is until recently, we were basically two nations. We were the Maori people and the Pākehā people. And because of that, most of the Maori and the Pākehā, most Maori now have Pākehā in them. I don't think any full-blood Maori left in New Zealand. So so that's what we are made up of. And Winston Peters saw that because he was his parents, he was half caste. His I think mother was English, I could be wrong, and his father was Maori, so he has these two cultures behind him. And his whole family were educated, very well educated family, the Peters family, and so he became a lawyer, politician, did very, very well for himself, but he also learnt to mock the media, and that was his sort of MO, really. He was just a bit, fake news, and he was always playing them at their own game. Unfortunately, and he also was very much against Chinese immigration, so he saw that as a great threat, just very much like Trump. So that really is the best I can say. Also, in New Zealand, we also believed, yes, quite a few people called Winston, because we believed Winston Churchill was a man of valour and honour. And it's not unless you watch that video that I have shown you, there is a lot of history coming out about the war, and the horror of it, and that very much like John Kerry and I think John McCain, this Winston Churchill was one of those who actually caused a lot of death and had his tracks covered over by people in high places, and not at all the honourable person that he was portrayed as. So even my mother named her dog Winston or Winnie, so but it's very much a name of affection in this country. So I just wanted to show you something quite random. My battery's going on, to try and get you to understand why me dreaming about him would be significant, and you would think, well, how is New Zealand significant? Well, some of you would understand that in the esoteric world, in the occult world, St. Peter's and Washington, they are, designed in occult symbolism, occult, all over the Washington. But when they want to do one of their secret rituals, really serious ones, cannot be done out in the open. And that was why I got struck, you know, on the day that I was showing that Wanganui was a sister city to Washington DC and Rome, where these elites do mirror rituals, you know, that they cannot do in the open there. So because of our meridians, because of our PowerPoints, New Zealand and Wanganui is underneath the Orion star system, so it's a very, very crucial PowerPoint, and that's why why God shows me as Donald's wife, you know, why I took the strikes for him, and that I was killed on that solstice when all the witches around the world were came together to curse Trump. Okay, so that's just quickly what happens. But what I just want to show you, just to show you that something spiritual is going on, and this is something that I saw, you know, years ago when Donald was first, not Donald, Alex, I won't say his other name, deplatformed, and he started this band.video. And so, I shouldn't have said that either. Never mind. Anyway, I tried signing in, and this is what happened when I sign in, and it still happens to this day. So I think it is so random that it's actually worth me just showing you. And you know, it's just to sort of, so here, this is, you can see that this is you know who I'm talking about, that unmentionable channel. And what is also, I find rather strange, is that they are very much not only backers of New Zealand's new channel, but they're obviously, you know, on the sharing the same platform. Okay, so I want to write a comment there. So if you see if I can write that comment. So I put my comment on. It says I have to sign in. Okay. So when I sign in, okay, can you see that? I mean, how random is that? The email. So they've put in this, you know, dummy login, as if people don't know how to log in, and it is winston@truthministry.gov. Can you see that? And then username down with big bro. Okay, so how utterly weird is that? And you know, so what has Winston got to do with Alex? I don't know. So just carrying on from that, so some of you also might not understand what I'm going on about the Ouroboros and these videos that I've been doing, trying to dissuade you from watching these iPet goat interpreters. You know, the one that I've been showing you, you'll know that he is talking about this, what do you call it? You know, I showed you in my other video yesterday. He calls them, oh grief, calls them, I always think helter-skelter, but it's skullduggery. He calls it skullduggery. And as I showed you, so here is Sagittarius.
That happens when you have a total solar eclipse. Okay. And we have that there. So here we have the diamond ring. See, there's the...
So he's turning this skullduggery guy into someone that's coming, you know, the destroyer. And I showed you yesterday, if I can't quite find it, please look it up, because I don't want to lose my mark of what I've just found here. So this is the Ouroboros. This is what it's really all about. And as I said to Lisa, that she might understand that the time, Ouroboros is represents eternity. You know, the serpent eating its tail. You know, it's the Leviathan and Job. But you'll see that there's a point there. And that point there is every so often God intervenes in our history and shoots his arrow using Sagittarius. So Jesus is Sagittarius. He represents Sagittarius because that was the time that he came into our time. Then also it happened at the flood. Every time that we have had a change of a a change of planet, of eon. So Jesus brought in the fish, Pisces. Now we're moving to Aquarius. So that was the significance of me dreaming about Winston Peters having this Ouroboros tattooed on his chest. And what was also interesting about him also in that dream is that he was a young man. And I have done other videos of this, and I just came across it again, and it's talking about, so the thing that I forgot about this that dream was that his body was youthful, very youthful. And as I opened this book of David Flynn, the David Flynn collection, Sidonia, I'm just going to read you this. It says, the cosmic waters aligned to surround the earth, while at the same time the world was actually destroyed by a flood. This heavenly portent and the earth's destruction by water occurred at the same time. The earth's geologic record corroborates the age in which the cataclysm of the aeon occurred. The late Pleistocene mass extinction occurred globally during the Ouroboros alignment around 10,500 BC. Okay, so here's a quote here relating to what the significance of Winston's youthful body. O Solon, Solon, you Hellenes are never anything but children, and there is not an old man among you. Solon, in return, asked him what he meant. I mean to say, he replied, that in mind you are all young. There is no old opinion handed down among you by ancient tradition, nor any science which is hoary with age. And I will tell you why. There have been and will be again many destructions of mankind arising out of many causes. The greatest have been brought about by the agencies of fire and water, and other lesser ones by innumerable causes. Okay, so this is talking about, he says, the Egyptian priests pointed out that after every cycle of destruction on earth, the survivors had to start again as children, learning tradition and science anew. Now, I had 3 dreams to my recollection of Winston, and that makes sense of the first one. The first one was that I was taking him home to his parents' farm. So his parents had a farm up north. Now in New Zealand, that also signifies, up north signifies heaven. Yeah, I think around the whole world it does, but especially in New Zealand, because up north we have this tradition, Maori tradition, that the spirits leave from the tip of New Zealand. They go up to Cape Reinga and then they fly off. That's the Maori tradition. And so that is symbolic of me taking him home to his ancestors. And I believe that just as I think has happened with Trump, to an extent, that these sort of people who are continually fighting against, they're standing, with arrows coming from them from every side. I'm one of them, so that sometimes you get to the stage where you can get a bit blithe, you can get a bit cocky, and just say, oh, what the, and then end up they will trap you because there's so many of them. And I believe, just as I've shown you that we are in this time, many people over there now are really shocked at Trump because he appeared to be endorsing the vaccines, and and actually got up there. And I believe that is very symbolic of what is happening. And as I replied to one of my subscribers, I believe that just as Jesus said, I have a baptism to undergo, and how, not anxious, I can't quite, impatient I am that it should be finished. Well, I believe that what's happened here with Trump is that he's gone through a baptism, that he, just like Winston, had to open up this age. you know, and what he did in New Zealand was such a traitorous act, you know, because he stood for anti-immigration, you know, primarily the power that the Chinese had, because of course he had been in politics so long, he knew backwards and, you know, backwards, sideways, you know, what was going on, and he had been in the National Party. So when it came to deciding which side he was going to go on at the election, he, you know, he went and he did not go with those who actually won the election, the National Party. He actually went to, you know, Labour and put in this creature who I have said right from the beginning was the Revelation 13 beast from the sea, and which is exactly what is being proved out now. So even though that then made him into the traitor in the eyes of so many of us in the country, you know, if you look at it spiritually, and if as I've shown you there, something spiritual, you know, for his name, you know, to be on there, you know, if I've got it wrong, Alex or someone please tell me, but I cannot understand why that would be the sign in. And I just also wanted to show you something else that makes it very obvious that New Zealand's new party here, okay, this is our one that is actually standing up and doing an amazing job, but they are obviously on Alex's platform, and you know, so and it's exactly the same sign in, you know, so, and exactly as you can see they're on the band format, and so, you know, you can see all the.
On the other side of that, there's an inscription that says.
So I won't. So what is going on? Okay, so I'll just quickly tell you the other. Am I with you? Am I making sense, please? Okay, so that was that dream was me taking him back to his parents. So I believe it was that he had become very wily, worldly, and that I was going to take him back to his home. And I mean, I believe represent the bride, the church, and so what he's seen happen, you know, to his country, you know, that maybe that has given him the same sort of thing that's happened with Trumpy, that they have come back to God, that they have, you know, returned to their home, to their roots, or, you know, in that process. And the second dream that I had was of his electoral, and now I'm understanding what that was. So it was his electoral offices, which were in Wanganui, and outside them were two huge trees, and they were overshadowing this sort of this house, this electoral house that he lived in. Yeah, well, no, I don't know if he actually lived in there. It's not, but yeah. So they were overshadowing it, and of course, the tree represents powers and principalities and powers and that sort of thing. So I think that's very much where he was at. That, you know, in New Zealand we have the two parties, you know, the two power structures, and that you know, that he had to make a choice between them. And basically, he knew they were both as bad as each other. So, you know, he was the devil's advocate. And I believe that's exactly the same and what is happening with Trump. You know, that the Republican Party and the Democrat are one and the same. So that's where we're at. And this time now, the Sagittarius, that this guy on iPet Goat is trying to make out as some kind of strike, you know, all these things, they're always trying to scare us, you know, that it's a nuclear strike, you know, from this Sagittarius, you know, from this
Fact. Okay. Now, how many times do we see it? Once as it's going. His hand is rising, you get the full diamond ring effect, and then a second time at the top. And then after the second time, he's going to reach down and get her. Now at the tiger. So we have just gone from those are two solar eclipses, total solar eclipses being represented. Now, where are these total eclipses? Take a look at his hands.
Okay.
The ring is in his hands.
So I mistakenly, of course, you know, identified that with Christmas, but of course, that's New Year's Day, isn't it? New Year's Eve, we have the fireworks, and then, as I showed in that other video, the daisy. So there's the daisy. So that's what I believe is the cure. There's the cure at that daisy laboratory in Germany, the German counterpart of CERN. And you know, so, but also daisies represent, you know, daisies from heaven that God showered on the earth when there was a death. But he was pulling back his
hands,
arm.
Watch the motion. I put it in a GIF or GIF or whatever you want to call it. Here, so we can watch it repeatedly. His hand, he draws back, and he drops his hand as he shoots with his mouth. This is representing an archer. Look at the motion like an archer. He is drawing back his bow. He fires, and when he fires, he drops his hand.
Okay, so then he starts talking about, you know, it going into, I think, Sagittarius, but so he's
from June 21st, 2009.
But as you see, Sagittarius is actually
Sirius. We know that from the
is Sagittarius. Okay, so that represents the promised land, us coming into the promised land. And also at the end of this pet goat, you actually see the Christ in the boat, you know, which of course they are all identifying with the Antichrist, the false Christ. But in fact it isn't. It's when the Christians truly realise that they are Christ on this earth, that Christ lives in them, and he's not coming back. But this is when God shoots his arrow into that eternal Ouroboros, the Ouroboros that just keeps going around and round, right? And shoots his arrow at a certain mark and stops, you know, changes time. And that also is what my dreams about when I'm talking to Prince William and Prince Charles and telling them no, that they won't be king, you know, and also the other dreams that I've had standing on the shore, Royal Britannia, Royal Britannia, you know, that is the end of those false royals, all the hierarchies, and this is why they're fighting so hard. This new aeon is when when the Son of Man returns on this earth and they rule, you know, because you remember God didn't want us to have kings, you know, he wanted us to be sovereign, just him and the Lord, and that I wanted to point out that we are the steeple. That the reason that God is pulling down that steeple is that we are the steeple straight to heaven. And so that's where we're at, and that's the significance of the arrow bang, you know, that Sagittarius pulls and strikes. Okay, so this looks like when he talks, okay, so he gets all of this wrong. You see, look at the woman, see the picture there? That is the opposite. Okay, so this is the ancient picture. See that woman upside down the heavens? So that is what this woman on the lion represents. It's when, so all the years the woman has been circling, protecting the earth, but now it's actually upside down, and we have become, you know, we are, instead of God now protecting us, we are his representatives on earth and giving our glory back to him. So we are being his absolute representatives here. And so all these things here from the Egyptians that we've been taught to be afraid of, these are just all old versions of the same story of God telling us. And I will just show you something. I came across this really lovely testimony of a guy who committed suicide and came back, and he is so genuine and real, and I really believe that it would he's talking about some huge changes on the earth, and I believe that he has been allowed to come back with this message. So it's only 7 minutes.
I needed to change them. I needed to lighten the load. after that, there was this amazing kind of holographic image that completely surrounded me in this room, and it was my future. And it was like basically the future of Earth. It was very different. It was changed so much that it didn't make sense. I'd say I was about 50 years old, and you can tell that things were not what they are now. Something big changes the Earth. Like, all I wanted to do was die. But now after the NDE, all I want to do now is live. All I want to do now is do my best. Like, it changed me to my core. For me, what really helped me was finding something, finding a purpose, finding something more to live for, finding...
Okay, I'll leave that link, and I hope you look it up. It's very inspiring, and I believe it's true, and that that there is no hell, and that's just the church has tried to keep people in fear. That God is a God of love, and that when we die, as I know with my grandmother's experience, my death experience, when my grandmother died. And I asked the Lord, why did she look like that rock? She didn't look like a body at all. And I went home, told Dennis I had to go home, and I went home and just prayed and said, Lord, why did she look like that? And he just showed me instantly. He just showed me her spirit rising up out of her body. And from that time, and also that was, some of you'll remember that when I went to see her that day, and she didn't answer the knock on the doors, and I went round to the back door and she didn't answer there either. But then I heard voice in the trees, and the Pahutaka was saying, it's going to be all right, it's going to be all right. And I didn't know. I thought, what's going to be all right? It sounded really strange. And then I went round the front door and looked in her bedroom window, and I saw her body. So after that experience, I've never been frightened of death. My grandmother was not a Christian, she was Jewish, but I know where she is. I know she's in heaven, just as I know my Rastus and my Lily, all my animals are in heaven, because I wouldn't say heaven, they back to the source is more what I'd say, that we are spirit, and when we die, our spirit just goes straight to God, and that judgment thing that has been put upon us is something the church has put there to keep people under their control. So I bless you all in Jesus' name, and hope that made sense, and hope that for those of you who sort of didn't understand who's this Winston, and know that something huge spiritual is happening, shift is taking place, and they are just trying to put the fear of death into all of us. So don't fall for it. Rejoice that Jesus came to show you. He came to do his baptism. His baptism was to show you that there's life after death, and that's for every one of you. So I bless you all in Jesus' name.